On November 2nd of 1831, our group left San Antonio, heading for the silver mines on the San Saba River. There were 11 men and 2 servant boys, including James and Rezin Bowie. Now, nothing unusual happened, not until November 19th, around 10 o'clock in the morning. 2 Comanche men and a Mexican captive caught up with us. They said they were part of Chief Isaoni's group, who had taken horses from rival tribes and were returning them to San Antonio. Well, after talking with them and giving them some gifts such as tobacco, powder, and shot, they left to rejoin their group at the Llano River. The next morning, the same Mexican returned. He warned us that a large group of Waco, Tawakoni, and Caddo warriors, about 160 in total, were tracking us and planning to attack. Isaoni had tried to stop them, but they wouldn't back down. The Mexican showed us Isaoni's silver medal to prove he was telling the truth. He offered help if we turned back, but since the attackers were already between us and Isaoni, we decided to push forward toward the old Spanish fort on the San Saba about 30 miles away. The roads were rough, our horses were worn out, and we didn't make it before nightfall. So we set up camp in a patch of live oak trees near a thicket and a stream about 6 miles from the fort. We cleared a path through the bushes, hobbled the horses, and posted guards for the night. At sunrise, as we prepared to leave, we saw the enemy on our trail, about 200 yards out, with a scout following our tracks. We shouted, "Indians!" and grabbed our weapons. They stopped, let out war cries, and began stripping down for battle. Outnumbered 15 to 1, we sent Rezin Bowie and David Buchanan to try and talk to him, but instead of responding, the enemy opened fire. Buchanan's leg was shattered. Bowie fired back, grabbed Buchanan, and carried him back while being shot at. And though Buchanan was hit twice more, Bowie wasn't injured. 8 warriors chased them, but our men shot 4 of them, forcing the rest to retreat. A few minutes later, more warriors appeared on a nearby hill and opened fire. Their chief rode forward, shouting for a charge. Our guns were mostly empty, but James Bowie asked who was still loaded. Ham replied, "I am," and was told to shoot the chief. He hit him, breaking his leg and killing his horse. The chief tried to protect himself with a shield, but our next volley brought him down. His men rushed in, picked him up, and carried him away. Several of them were shot also in the process. The rest of the warriors regrouped behind the hill, except for a few that were dodging between trees. Then they came back, this time with archers, and launched another heavy attack. We returned the fire with well-aimed rifle shots. Just after the last chief fell, another appeared on horseback. When asked who had a loaded weapon, no one answered, until young Charles, a mixed-race servant, ran up with Buchanan's unused rifle and handed it to James Bowie. Bowie fired, and he brought the chief down. Like before, the man was carried off by his warriors under heavy fire. While we were still fending off the fighters on the hill, about 15 to 20 Caddo warriors managed to sneak along the creek behind us and opened fire from just 40 yards away. Matthew Doyle was shot through the chest and fell. When Thomas McCaslin rushed to help, he was warned not to approach the creek bank because the attackers were likely skilled riflemen. Moments later, he spotted one of them and was immediately shot through the body and killed. Robert Armstrong tried to locate the shooter, but as he raised his weapon, a bullet struck his rifle, breaking part of the stock and lodging in the barrel. By now, the enemy had surrounded us completely, hidden among rocks, trees, and bushes. Gunfire erupted from all sides. Our position among the trees was too exposed, so we retreated into a nearby thicket. The first priority was clearing out the enemy riflemen by the creek. Because we had cover and a good view of them, we picked them off quickly, aiming mostly for the head. The path we'd cleared through the thicket that night before gave us an advantage. We could see into the open prairie, but they couldn't see us. After every shot, we moved a few feet, which confused their aim since they were firing only at the smoke from our rifles. They would shoot 20 rounds into a patch no bigger than a pocket handkerchief where they saw smoke. This went on for 2 hours. Only James Coriel was hit, shot through the arm, the bullet deflecting off a bush and lodging in his side without serious damage. Realizing they couldn't drive us out with bullets alone, the enemy lit fires in the dry grass, hoping smoke would cover their retreat and flush us out. The wind was blowing west, so the fire swept down to the creek and to the side, but it missed us, leaving a 5-acre patch of safety. While they moved their dead and wounded under the smoke, we scraped away grass and leaves to protect our supplies and injured men from the fire, and build up a wall with rocks and brush. The fire failed to drive us out, so they regrouped and launched another attack from the prairie. The wind suddenly shifted north, blowing hard toward us. If they lit the grass near our position, we'd be trapped. And sure enough, one of them crawled close and set the grass ablaze, but Robert Armstrong spotted him and shot him before he could escape. Now it seemed we had no way out. Flames were shooting 10 feet high and were racing toward us. If we stayed, we'd burn. If we ran, we'd be cut down. The Indians cheered and shouted, firing about 20 shots a minute. When the smoke hid us from view, we gathered for a quick decision. If they charged under cover of the smoke, we agreed to fire once, then close ranks, backs together, and fight with knives until the end. If they didn't charge, we'd still burn. Thankfully, they used the moment to recover their dead instead. Now by sundown, we had been fighting for 13 hours. The enemy finally pulled back about 300 yards and camped for the night. We worked until 10 o'clock that night, raising our defenses and filled every container with water, bracing for another attack. All night, we heard their morning cries. At dawn, they followed their custom and shot a mortally wounded warrior. Then they moved to a mountain a mile away to bury their dead. At 8 o'clock in the morning, 2 of us inspected their old camp and found 48 bloody spots. Based on that and what we later heard from Comanches, they lost about 82 men total, killed and wounded. Now our side had 1 dead, 3 wounded, 5 horses killed, and 3 more horses wounded. We stayed put, improving our defenses until about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, when 13 Indians appeared. But seeing we were still alive, armed, and fortified, ready to fight, they left. We stayed in the fort for 8 days to recover, then set off at night for San Antonio. We traveled until the next afternoon, then stopped to camp again, expecting a pursuit, but they never returned. David Buchanan's leg had become infected. With no medical supplies, we boiled live oak bark, mixed it with charcoal and cornmeal into a poultice, tied it on with buffalo hide, and didn't touch it for 5 days. When we finally looked, it was healing. The dead flesh had fallen away, and his leg eventually recovered completely. All of us had bullet holes in our clothes and cuts on our skin. On the 12th day, we arrived back at San Antonio with our wounded men and horses, all still alive. Robert Hall.